everybody, and welcome back to episode now number 16 of the Spittin Fax podcast. I'm Ethan Spazarski,
And I'm Joey Priano.
and it is a great day to be joining you guys here to share our wealth of knowledge. We are officially done with the preseason, over with, gone with, be doneth. It's over. We are ready, and we are just a few days away, from less than 10 days away from the NFL kickoff game coming up on next Thursday. Joey, you want to explain to the people about that game coming up?
Bills and Rams. What an exciting game to start the NFL season with. Bills are preseason favorites to win the Super Bowl, and the Rams, of course, just coming off their Super Bowl victory. Should be a very exciting opening to the season.
Yes, very exciting game. Really exciting quarterbacks at the helm with Josh Allen, Matt Stafford. That game's going to be at 8:20 on NBC, of course. Excuse me. Be sure to tune in live. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people tuning into that event. Fun fact, Joey, there were more people tuned into the Steelers-Lions preseason game than there were to the 5 Christmas games on the NBA. I just want that fact to be known. That is a known fact. And it's surprising and not surprising because football is that good of a sport. It's entertaining to watch. And yeah, so just a little fun fact to lighten your day. More people watch NFL preseason games than they do on Christmas for the NBA. So just a little something to put in your tea there, stir that up. Since we're stirring the tea, I think there's no better way to start out than all the teams, I'm pretty sure, have their 53-man roster announced. They had till yesterday to cut it down to 53-man. Doesn't mean they don't have to bring some of the guys they cut or waive do get put back onto the practice squad. So not everybody's season's completely over, and of course there's a few little matches that go here and there. We'll get into the guys that we are surprised that got cut. Some big names, some medium-sized names that got cut. We'll get into that in a little bit. But nonetheless, we want to start out here with our team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They announced their 53-man roster towards their trek to the Super Bowl, where it's a very interesting season because they're kind of in a rebuild. They're favored to lose the division, coming in fourth. So it's very interesting. It's a lot of controversy back and forth. However, they did announce their 53-man roster, and I can admit I'm not upset. I'm happy with what they came down with, and everybody that I thought was going to make the team made the team.
Yeah, the Steelers had a great 53-man roster. People are really low on them this year, and I think that they're going to finish above 500 just like they do every single year under Mike Tomlin. They've got a great roster, and they can contend in this division. I don't know that they're not better than the Bengals and maybe not the Ravens, but they can contend, and they could sneak into the playoffs.
They're definitely a wild card team. There's no question about it. It'll be interesting with the Browns how everything plays out because you're going to start 11 games with Jacoby Brissett. We don't know how that's all going to work out. They added a new quarterback to their quarterback room as well while Deshaun's out. I'm sure that'll be interesting. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So the Steelers definitely have a fair opportunity to make it at least third in the division. I feel that's a fair assumption. And we do have a good history playing against Baltimore in both locations. So I feel like maybe technically on paper they don't have a better team than the Baltimore Ravens, but they definitely have a better chance than people give them in that aspect. So yeah, Pittsburgh could definitely be a wild card team. As right now, I don't see it. But again, I've been wrong before. I like to be wrong in these situations. So but something I feel worth talking about, and I want to get started with you, Joey, is the quarterback debate going into this right now. Mitch Trubisky is I'm 98% sure he's going to be named the starter for week 1 when we head to Cincinnati, ironically enough, for a 1:00 game there to kick off the season on 9/11. So, Joey, I want to know what your opinion is on Mitch Trubisky. I want to know what you feel about how Kenny Pickett's developing. I want to know all that information.
So I've said from the beginning for a while that I think that that Pickett should not start out as the starter, that it should be Trubisky, that he should get the first couple games. And so I'm thinking that's where the Steelers are going to head. That's where all the signs are pointing. So I think that they made the right decision, if that is the ultimate decision, is starting Trubisky. He just has experience. Nobody talks about him. He helped lead the Bears to a playoff run or a couple. He's a backup quarterback on a lot of teams, but I think that it's the right choice that he's starting for us. Kenny Pickett looked really good in preseason, and that was a awesome surprise for me to see. I really loved getting to see Kenny Pickett just sling the ball, do what we needed him to do, and he just performed well. So I think that Kenny Pickett by the end of the year probably will be the starter, but I think it is in the best interest of the team to have Mitch Trubisky start out the season.
You said everything that needed to be said, and you're 100% correct. I'm sure by some point, middle of the season, that Kenny Pickett's going to start taking the snaps because that's just how it usually works with Mitch Trubisky. But I want nothing to be, I don't want any shade to be thrown. I'm very happy with how Mitchell Trubisky has handled his step up in Pittsburgh so far. I'm very happy with his play. For the most part, he's making good decisions. He was making good throws in the preseason. His drives were mostly successful. So, I mean, I have nothing against him. I tweeted out a little bit ago after their game against Detroit. I'm happy with the Trubisky progress, and I'm really happy with the Kenny Pickett progress as well. I'm pretty sure 29 of 36, 279 yards and 3 touchdown passes. And just in case you're curious, he are only 7 incompletions, and not all of those are completely Pickett's fault. So his completion percentage is really high compared to how a lot of rookies start out, and even some veterans as well. It's kind of surprising to me.
And I don't think he had an interception either.
He did not have an interception. No. In all 3 games, he did play in all 3 games, and he did not throw an interception. Granted, for Jacksonville, he only threw 9 passes, but he completed 7 of them.
So, he only needed to throw 9 passes.
Exactly. He only needed 9 passes. He had a really good drive. He scored with Benny Snell, who we'll get to in a second here. But no, Kenny Pickett, he's really good decision making. He's accurate with the football. And it's like those 2 glove doubters. They're really looking silly now, aren't they?
Yeah, and I am also, when Mitch Trubisky, I think, should be the starter, I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett shouldn't see the field. I think he should see the field in the games that he's starting. Maybe even for a drive. I know that's pretty unconventional to have a quarterback just come in for a drive, but I think that it's fine to have him see the field in these first couple games. I think that would be good for him if you name him the starter later in the season. So I think that there is still opportunity for Kenny. If we're blowing out a team or if we're getting blown out in a game, throw Kenny Pickett in there and see what he can do.
100%. I mean, we know he can step up to the standards. He's played on some highly watched games. He stepped up in the ACC, or not the ACC championship, but it was the ACC championship. Yes. He stepped up and played, and he was able to perform well against Wake Forest. So, I'm sure if he would have played against Michigan State in their official bowl game, that would have been even awesome. But I mean, I get why he sat out. It makes perfect sense, and it's a good business call. Either way, though,
shifting on playing for the NFL. Yeah, sorry.
Exactly. No, you're good. Shifting on to our next position of running back, I feel it was the most needed to be touched up on. If anything, this running back room the past 2 years has been absolutely atrocious. I mean, besides Najee Harris made do with over 1,000 rush yards. He made 5th. He was 5th on the list for rushing yards last year, and he was doing against a terrible offensive line. There was no depth besides Najee. He got 381 touches, and that led the entire NFL. I just want everyone to know that, and he was a rookie. So we needed depth, and we actually got a little bit of depth hopefully this year. The starting running backs were named. Najee is the starter. Benny Snell's still here. Jalen Warren, and then for some reason, I don't know why, Derek Watts listed as a running back on the Steelers their initial 53-man roster. He's a fullback. That is what he should be used as, and usually is, besides special teams. However, Najee, Benny, and Jalen. And then I got an alert today that Anthony McFarland was signed to the practice squad as well.
The other player that the Steelers have currently on their roster that I'm excited about, who's not going to take over Najee, obviously, maybe not even take over Benny Snell, but Jeremy McNichols, who played with Tennessee last year.
Yes.
And when Derrick Henry went out at week 8, kind of filled that role. Obviously, he wasn't doing what Derrick Henry was doing, but he really didn't do that terrible.
A freight train can't do what Derrick Henry was doing.
In his career, he's got – obviously, nobody can replace Derrick. But in his career, he's got 90 attempts, 364 yards, only 1 touchdown. But in the receiving game, he has – last year in the receiving game, let's go just 2021 last year, he had 41 attempts for 156 yards, And in the receiving game, he had 28 catches for 240 yards. So, and a touchdown. So in the receiving game, he could be a good guy to turn to if Najee's getting tired, or you want to run the ball with Benny Snell if you take him out for a little bit. But I like him playing this year too. He's a great backup running back that kind of flew under the radar.
Exactly. He's on IR as it speaks, so he's technically on the team, just not like officially yet. I guess you
Mm-hmm.
could speak. So
Mm-hmm.
he is. I'm interested to see how it's going to play out with Benny Snell. He's kind of like Mason Rudolph, kind of waiting till they fall out when their contracts up, and then I don't see them being re-signed. Benny Snell is 98% of the time utilized on special teams. He rarely ever sees the field. I mean, last year Najee pretty much was dominated in just him being on the field. His first game in Buffalo last year, he played every single offensive snap. Benny Snell never saw any running back time. So yeah, Najee Harris is an absolute workhorse. Our offensive line got better. I'm not saying it's really good. I'm saying it got better from last year. So Najee set a little bit for success there. So it'll be interesting to see how this depth is going to work out for the Steelers at that running back position.
Yeah, super excited for Najee Harris this year. Our offensive line still isn't great, but it's better than it is last year. So if Najee can get 1,200 yards with the offensive line from last year, he can do it this year.
Exactly. Two positions that the Steelers have had a history of really good, like drafting and just developing wise, is wide receiver and tight end. Never been a problem in my mind. Of course, where I'm going to name off those players now that we're officially on the team. Of course, Chase Claypool, the offseason acquisition, Miles Boykin from Baltimore, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Calvin Austin III, who as well is also on IR, Steven Sims, who we got, I believe, from Washington, and then Gunnar Olszewski, were the return man from New England last year. He's also going to be utilized, though, as a receiver this year with the Steelers. And then the tight end position, we got ourselves some good tight ends. We have Pat Fryermuth, Zach Gentry, and then Connor Hayward as well. The man, our 6th-round pick. So that was very exciting to see as well.
Yeah, the wide receivers are very underrated this year for this team. We got a ton of depth at wide receiver. A lot of these guys can be starters on teams, of course. And we got a very young wide receiver core. Miles Boykin is one of the only veteran guys on this team who's been around for a little bit. Um, and then, of course, bringing Calvin Austin. George Pickens, watch out for him for Rookie of the Year, I think. He has been insane in preseason. He is bullying people all over the field. Super physical, 6'3", big guy. He's just – and Gunnar Olszewski, the other guy who's been very impressive in preseason, just getting open, finding separation, holding onto the ball. This wide receiver core could be good. I'm interested to see who – steps up and becomes a starter, because you got to say it's Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, but George Pickens, Gunnar Olszewski, and
Oop, I apologize, Joe. Are you still there? I apologize, guys. We'll be right back. I am going to figure out what's going on with Joe's microphone. We'll be right back.